It's pretty common knowledge that you know, men don't really cry because they don't want to show their emotions, and they won't be tough and withstand their manliness if they show any kind of weakness. And that's obviously stems from their father never cried in front of them, and they didn't want to look weak in front of their father. So it's just been generational dogma not to cry as an adult man, or even just as an infant child boy. The problem with that, obviously you've seen on my other videos about the dangers of emotional stress and emotional baggage, but I want to talk about insecurities in relation to this, because not being able to cry sounds it's a good argument to say, well, you shouldn't cry because it'll show you that how tough you are. But the reality is it's an insecurity. It's not being able to cry is an insecurity because you're not comfortable in your shoes to hold your space, to allow for yourself to cry. Now, women struggle with this as well, but on a general ratio, women find it much easier to cry and make space for it. So I wanted to just talk about it with men, because if you let it let it go, let it slide for so long, what ends up happening is you do eventually break down. Nature won't let you go your whole life without crying. If you don't cry, it's easily debated that you don't know what happiness truly is. If you don't know what sadness is, you won't know what full happiness is. It's the black and white scenario. You don't know how black is unless you know how white is. So it's that contrast that lets you allow yourself to be happy. So if you're blocking yourself from crying because you're tough, well, then you're also blocking yourself from being happy because you're too tough to be happy also. So that's the problem. And the problem is that eventually when you end up having to cry because nature gives it to you on a platter, you really cry and break down. And now, because you've never cried, there's such a tornado full of tears that come out and sadness that comes out that it leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth. You now associate crying with this horrible feeling, this horrible torturous feeling, and that you actually do become a little child and have no control over your emotions because you've never felt them before. And now you're even more insecure because you're reinforcing the fact that you don't want to cry because you can't control it, and it's this evil thing. Do you see what I'm talking about now? So you go your whole life without crying, thinking how tough you are, but then when you actually do have to cry, you just got no control over it, and you actually feel you just got a bad taste. So what's the remedy? Swallow ego for starters. Just change the mindset of you have to be tough to cry. You want to be a man, or be a human before you can be a man. And being a human means you express all emotions, you feel all emotions, good and bad, up and down, whatever it is, and you feel what it is like to be a human, knowing that if you don't know one, you're not going to know the other. If you don't know sadness, you're never going to know happiness. Make space for it by yourself and on your own, and don't leave it to nature to give it to you when there's other people around you and you really have no control over it. Make space for it. Set the scene for yourself. And if you have some things that you haven't cried about but that you knew you should have cried about, relive it, bring back the memories, relive the memories through thinking about it, visualizing it, and let the tears come out. And if you feel like you can't cry, they'll come. You just got to work on it. You got to keep bringing attention and awareness to it. That'll save you a lot of hardship and emotional stress down the line when you're forced to cry and you're left with that bad taste, and then you never will cry again because you knew how insecure you did feel when it actually came out. There's a lot of strength in crying.